Hey y'all. Um, this video is about my third husband, but he wasn't my third husband yet. So I'm going to have to put him in two different videos. Les, and I can use his name and everything because he is deceased. But Les and I met in high school. Well, actually, he was in high school and I was in junior high. So I worked at the local hamburger joint in town, and I'm sure that's how I met him, and maybe even passing in the hallways at school. Now, I don't remember exactly how this whole thing came apart. Yeah, it came apart. But we started flirting with each other big time. Actually, he was flirting with me, okay? I think I was flirting with somebody else at the time. But anyway, he was couple 3 years ahead of me, and he was a big football player. He was a jock. He was not a brainiac. He was a jock. In fact, he didn't care anything about school. It was just a vehicle for him to play football. Now, he was kind of a little hoodlum, I guess you would say. Not really a hoodlum. I mean, he didn't steal stuff. You know, he never stole a car that I know of. But he did drink a lot, and he did do drugs. Now, back when I was in high school and junior high, they weren't drug testing for that stuff like they do now. So he got by with a lot. He barely got by in school. He didn't care about school. So I remember sitting up in the bleachers, and I don't know what position he played, but he rammed into a lot of people. I mean, y'all, this man's neck was huge. Now, he wasn't a big guy. He was like probably my height, 5'7", 5'8", very muscular build. You know, those football jocks work out all the time. So anyway, I remember sitting up in the bleachers wrapped up in blankets with my girlfriends because it got really cold in Arkansas in the wintertime. So then, I don't know exactly how it happened, but we started going out. Now, going out, uh, movies, the hamburger joint, hanging out at my house, hanging out at his mom's house. Now, back then, houses had a living room and a den. Now, his mom's house had one, and my parents' house had one. So we used spend a lot of time in the living room making out. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm not lying. And he was next to the oldest of 9 children. His dad died of brain cancer right after his mom's last baby was born, a little girl. And so my mother at the time was working at the same hamburger joint I was working in. Now, I used to work there when I wanted some, excuse me, some new Levi's or a new top or whatever. My parents didn't really provide a lot of stuff for me because they felt like I was old enough to work and I was capable of working, so I did. It was really hard though in the summer when all the guys and gals would come in and they'd be getting burgers and shakes and all that kind of stuff. They'd be in their bathing suits and they would be on the way to the lake, okay? And I didn't get to go. That was hard. Anyway, Les was, I would say, he was obsessed with me. I knew that he loved me. I knew he cared about me. And I felt the same way about him. And we talked about getting married. We talked about having babies. You know how that is when you're young and you're talking about getting married, where you're going to live, and how many kids you're going to have. Well, we did all of that. He was very quirky, different. He did not like authority. For instance, occasionally we would have a dance after a football game. I'm sure it was the playoffs. The BB Badgers were very good back in the day, and Leslie was an amazing player. I remember they always had an ambulance on the field during the games. And one night, sitting up there in the bleachers watching the football game, Leslie hit the ground. Well, the doctor ran out there, and then a paramedic ran out there, and the next thing I knew, they were throwing him in the ambulance and were taking him to the hospital. His mom and I were freaking out. Of course, we went to the hospital. He had hurt his leg pretty bad, but thank God that's all it was, because as rough as he was, he could have broken his neck many times. Now, the thing with authority for Les was he didn't like it, and he didn't follow it, okay? Now, once we started dating, he stopped drinking, and he stopped doing any drugs, and that was my condition. I would not go out with him. I would not be his girlfriend unless he straightened up. Now, having alcoholic parents and drug-addicted siblings and friends, I did not want to saddle myself with a drug-addicted, alcoholic boyfriend. So he quit all that stuff. At one of the football games, we were supposed to have kind of a dress code. Now, y'all, we wore our little mini skirts. They were so short. They were very short. And the dress code for the guys was that they had to wear a tie. I met Leslie at the gymnasium where we always had our dances and everything. Of course, at the end of the football game, the guys all went and took showers and everything, and then they got ready for the dance. Well, I was waiting out there for him, and here he comes. He always wore Levi's, a white V-neck t-shirt, and on this occasion, he had made a paper tie. God. He really pushed the limits, you guys. How he didn't get kicked out of school, I don't know. But anyway, he had colored it, painted it. I'm sure he had his little sisters do it for him. And he had it tucked into his t-shirt. They let him in. He got by with a lot of stuff, you guys, because those football players, the ones that were really good, football was everything in a little town. I mean, it was so important. It was back when they passed guys. They had bad grades, but they passed them so they could play football. And that was the case with Les. Anyway, we dated, and we were joined at the hip. And my mother became friends with his mother. And so when she would close down the little hamburger joint, she would bring his mom a foot-long chili dog, yuck, some French fries, and they would watch the roller derby while Leslie and I were on the couch in the living room making out. Crazy, huh? And they never came to check on us, which I thought was even more crazy. I would have never let my teenage daughter be alone in a room with a closed door for 10 minutes. But that's just the way it was. They were watching roller derby and they trusted us, I guess. Now, I can tell y'all, it was totally him. He was the reason that I remained a virgin until I got married. He said he respected me too much to let that happen. So anyway, that's the way it was. We made out a lot. We were joined at the hip, and we did everything together. We spent all our spare time together. Um, I bet if you went to BB High School, if it still exists, that in those big old trees out there on the property, you would find our initials carved in those trees. He carved our initials in the trees. He carved our initials on the concrete sidewalk. He carved our initials in all the desks. And he used to get in trouble for that. Ours weren't the only initials that were carved, though, you guys. But he carved them everywhere. What else can I say? We dated for a few years. And then I don't know. I think what happened was I was just being suffocated. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever been in a relationship where the person that you're with has to just be on top of you all the time? Their arm around you, hugging you, kissing you, holding your hand. I lost that loving feeling, y'all. And it took me a long time to break up with Leslie because I knew how devastated he would be. So I actually dated him longer than I wanted to. And finally, I just couldn't stand it anymore. I felt like I was going to scream and not stop screaming. So I broke up with him, and he cried, he begged, he pleaded with me not to break up with him. He would call me at home every day after school. It was toward the end of the school year when I broke up with him. And I felt awful, you guys. I was sick at my stomach. I cried. I gave in to him once and went back to him, and that didn't last very long at all. And I had to break up with him again. I just couldn't stand him anymore. I couldn't stand him to touch me. And he wasn't disrespectful. It was just always a touch, a hug, holding my hand. I just couldn't do it anymore, you guys. It was, I was repulsed. I just did not want him to touch me anymore. Well, it was so bad, his unacceptance. He started drinking again and being wild. And of course, his family blamed that on me. He wouldn't be acting that way if I hadn't broken up with him. I carried a lot of guilt, you guys, for a long time. And it was bad. He just couldn't accept it. He would drive out to the house and want me to sit in the car and talk to him, or he would want me to let him in, or he would want me to go for a drive with him. So finally, I was, I think, 16 or maybe 15. my parents decided that they would send me out here to California. I had a couple of aunts and uncles out here on my mom's side. So they sent me out here to stay with an aunt and uncle to get away from Les and give him some time to adjust. Well, he was really, really wild, you guys. Threw himself out of a moving car. It was going fairly fast. That scared me so bad. And I almost went back to him then, but I knew I couldn't. I knew I just wouldn't feel any different. Now, you know, my parents had really thought, they really liked Leslie, and they really thought that, you know, we were going to get married someday. But I stayed out here in California for the summer, and then I went back home, and I did not see him anymore. Now, I heard that he married this little girl, this not little girl, but you know, he married this girl, and they had a baby boy, and I was very happy for him. But unfortunately, the marriage did not last very long. Some years later, he became my third husband. That's a different video. This one's getting way too long, you guys. But have you ever had a relationship like that before where maybe you were the one that cared more than the other person? Or maybe you had someone that cared more about you than you did them. Either way, it's very uncomfortable. And I will tell you about him in the next video. Thank you guys for watching and listening to some things that have happened in my life. And they weren't all bad. I mean, I loved Leslie to death for quite a while. I don't know what changed. Like I said, I think I was smothered. Or I felt smothered. But anyway, you guys, I will talk to you later. Stickers are almost decided on. And maybe by the time I put this video up, they will be decided on. We're down to the last design. And you guys are going to get to vote. You may have already voted. I may have the stickers in my hands by the time this video comes out. Whatever. But anyway, you guys, do something fun today. Hazel's right here in the chair next to me, where she always is. And that's it. Talk to you later. Bye.